US President Donald Trump stated that NATO faces a very bad future if the alliance countries do not support the United States of America in opening the Strait of Hormuz, which has been blocked by Iran. And just yesterday, Trump was asking the Europeans for help, while the day before he was humiliating and insulting these very Europeans. Essentially, Trump is now demanding that the countries of the European Union go to war against Iran, otherwise NATO will completely fall apart. But as it turned out, several European countries have already rejected Donald Trump's appeals, and Trump immediately rushed to insult those same Europeans again. In addition, he reminded everyone about the role Americans played in helping Ukraine and noted that he now expects mutual support from the Allies. Just yesterday, he said he felt bad and that no help from Ukraine was needed. But Trump forgot to clarify that as soon as he entered the White House, he immediately cancelled all aid to Ukraine, claiming that it was some distant war and not America's war. And now Europeans are telling Donald Trump the same thing to his face, like this isn't our war. But Trump is clearly crossing the line and confidently declares that he is ready to seize the Strait of Hormuz and Karg Island. That's an Iranian island. But only with the help of the Europeans. So in just 2 days, Trump went from saying our allies should help us unblock the Strait of Hormuz to if our allies don't help us unblock the Hormuz Strait, NATO has a very bad future ahead. And then, unexpectedly, the Europeans announced the start of their own military operation in the Middle East, independent of Donald Trump. My name is Alexi Pecci. Let's discuss this topic together. But before we start, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, like this episode, and leave any comment under this video. In addition, subscribe to my Telegram channel, Peachy News. The link is in the description of this video. There we publish breaking news as it comes in. So, US President Donald Trump has essentially admitted his inability to wage war in the Middle East alone, although earlier he proudly declared victory and even mocked the British when they offered their help. But everything changed abruptly and Trump began to beg and now even threatens his allies, asking them to help him in the war against Iran. Donald Trump stated today that NATO faces a very bad future if the alliance countries do not support the United States in opening the Hormuz Strait, which Iran has blocked. He reminded them of the role of Americans in helping Ukraine and noted that now he expects mutual support from the allies. Here is his quote: "We have something called NATO. We have been very good. We didn't have to help them with Ukraine. By them, I mean Europe. Ukraine is thousands of miles away from us, but we helped them, the Europeans. Now let's see if they will help us." That's why I've been saying for a long time that we will stand by them. But they won't stand by us. And I'm not sure they will be there. Trump began to manipulate and hit the sore spot. According to the American president, Europe and China are more dependent on oil supplies from the Persian Gulf region than the United States. Therefore, they should join in ensuring the security of shipping. Quote, "It makes perfect sense that those who benefit from the strait should help ensure that nothing bad happens there. But, of course, he forgot to add that the strait was operating peacefully until he started a war against Iran, which he is now unable to control. The Strait of Hormuz is a strategic route for the international economy, as it accounts for about 20% of the world's oil supply. Iran effectively blocked passage through the strait after the US and Israel attacked its territory more than 2 weeks ago. As a result, oil prices jumped to $160 per barrel, which is about 45% higher than before the hostilities began. Although in the first days Donald Trump called everyone who started to worry about the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz idiots, now this same Trump is asking for help. In the end, Trump resorted to banal threats against his allies. Trump warned that the lack of support from allies could have serious consequences for the alliance. Quote, "If there is no response, or if the response is negative, I think it will be very bad for the future of NATO." By the way, the day before, former NATO Secretary General Stoltenberg hinted that NATO might not survive Trump's presidency. Now here's the most interesting part. Let me remind you, last week the United Kingdom offered 2 of its aircraft carriers to help the United States. But Trump said that the British were late with their help, as was Prime Minister Keir Starmer. He continued, "He's just trying to take credit for the US victory, and that's why Trump rejected such help." But when he was asked in an interview yesterday what kind of help he needed from NATO countries, the head of the White House replied, "Whatever is needed." In particular, he mentioned the possibility of using minesweepers, which, according to him, European countries have significantly more of than the US. And this is an important point. And to be honest, I really don't understand why Europeans don't publicly call out Donald Trump on his own words and actions. It's time to remind Trump that without the Europeans, the US won't be able to handle this war alone. Just like the Europeans, for example, can't do it without the US. It has always been the Euro-Atlantic alliance. But if Trump is asking European and Asian allies to send their naval forces to the Strait of Hormuz, then those same allies should demand in return that Donald Trump immediately lift all American tariffs in their relations. And I'm sure that if you switch Donald Trump and Europe right now, and it was Europe that needed help, Trump would not hesitate to make exactly that demand of them. He would say, "Lift the tariffs, otherwise I won't help you at all." Besides, not long ago, Donald Trump created what he called the Peace Council, which included Russia and, for example, Belarus. So why doesn't Donald Trump ask his new friends for help? Why did he come for help to those he was insulting and humiliating just yesterday? Well, despite all this, the publication Axios writes that Trump is planning to create a coalition of countries to open the Hormuz Strait, which was blocked by Iran, and to seize Iran's critically important oil storage facility on Karg Island if tankers remain blocked in the Persian Gulf. And now it has become known that on March 14th and 15th, the entire White House staff, led by Trump, was calling allies and asking them to join his coalition. Moreover, Trump himself personally called the Prime Minister of Britain, Keir Starmer, whom he had publicly humiliated not so long ago. Starmer will offer, quote, to the countries, that agree to join the coalition, предоставить военные ships, command and control assets, drones, and other military equipment. To offer, do you understand? They're not asking. Even here, they've decided to disguise it. Trump wants to announce the creation of this coalition as early as this week. But for Trump, a big problem has arisen here. The Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Keir Starmer, during a conversation with the President of the United States, refused to send warships to help the Americans unblock the Strait of Hormuz. France, Germany, and South Korea also expressed their unwillingness to send their warships to help Trump. Essentially, Britain and other allies are resisting Trump's request for joint efforts as stock markets prepare for further chaos. The UK Energy Minister, Ed Miliband, said that the government is actively exploring options to restore access to the strait, but refused to make firm commitments. France, Germany, and South Korea have also not responded to Trump's calls, as they believe the war is dragging on and their involvement would prolong it even further. The French Minister of the Armed Forces insists that his country's position will remain defensive and protective and that they will not be drawn into the war being waged by the US and Israel. South Korea simply responded by stating that it is closely monitoring the situation. Germany also expressed skepticism about proposals to expand its naval mission in the Strait of Hormuz. In particular, German Foreign Minister Johann Wadephul stated that the mission to assist commercial cargo through the Red Sea was ineffective. He stated that he is very skeptical that extending the Aspides mission, the EU naval mission in the Middle East, to the Hormuz Strait will provide greater security. Let me explain here. This Aspides operation is a European Union naval mission to escort ships, launched back in February 2024 after Yemeni Houthis attacked merchant vessels in the Red Sea. There are now ideas to expand this mission to the Strait of Hormuz, but importantly, not in coalition with Donald Trump, but separately. Supposedly, this could be a separate military mission, a purely European mission just for escorting merchant ships and tankers and nothing more. Trump is also asking China for help, but on Sunday it became known that Iran is considering allowing ships connected with China to pass through the strait in order to ease economic difficulties for its strategic ally. Meanwhile, India, which recently signed a major agreement with Israel on the purchase and trade of defense products, stated that direct negotiations with Iran are the most effective way to resume supplies. In short, no one wants to join a coalition with Trump for now. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. And I would also appreciate any support from you in the form of a donation, paid subscription, or sponsorship on YouTube. All the links and details on how to do this are in the description of this video. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone.